Step 1, wake up early, gonna rise with the sun. Step 2, get some good, some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you wanna be. Step 4, fuck everybody, just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 Yo, set your affirmations, aspirations. I got shit to do, the aftermath of preparation. Good food, good mood, blood in circulation. One step at a time, yeah, that's how you make it. Set a goal you control and the steps you take them. I try to pick one thought, have some concentration. And if I make a mistake, it's called education. I try to do this every day, call it replication. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 So life ain't easy, yo, I think there's a reason though. Ups and downs, just like every different season, yo. Sometimes I'm high, other times I'm barely breathing, though. I always gotta fight and hide from the demons, yo. Negative thoughts are poison, they rot. Head full of flaws, so here come the clouds. They'll never stop unless I can swap all the bad for the good in my head when I'm lost. Yeah, so I'ma fake it till I make it. Positive thoughts are overtaken, I got patience. One day at a time is how you operate a cadence. A flow, you grow, you show yourself a foundation. Stay away from all the shit that causes temptation. I know that I like to do it cause it's sensation. I live my life in my head like a narration. Don't expect greatness, do my best, man, I'll take it. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 Wake up, today's gonna be a good day.
Wake up early, gonna rise with the sun. Step 2, get some good, some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you wanna be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
Come here, baby. Look at here. You getting distracted again. Hello, somebody, man. Come on now. You got dreams to chase. You got goals to accomplish. You got some stuff that you got to do. You got some shadow work to be working, baby. I understand that, baby, honey. We got things to do, not no people to impress. Stay focused. That's right. Yeah. We don't care what they thinking, what they feeling, what they talking about. It ain't about impressing them. It ain't about showing out for them. This right here, this personal. Your comeback personal. Your healing personal. Your growth is personal. You got to stay focused. You cannot afford to get distracted. Come on now. Get on back in alignment, baby.
Welcome to the Bullhorn Betty Coffee Club.
As you wake up in the morning, you want to find the latest, greatest information about criminal cases and have an intuitive conversation about the suspects associated with these cases. Head over to the Bullhorn Betty channel on YouTube. Get breaking news right here on the Bullhorn Betty channel. Welcome to the Bullhorn Betty Coffee Club. Enjoy your stay and enjoy your day.
Well, good morning, my crazy people. We call the Coffee Club on YouTube. It's wonderful to see everybody this morning. We've already got 95 people in the chat already. I stumbled across something yesterday doing some research on Judge John, or John Judge. Right, this is going to be a tongue tie and a tongue twister as we proceed through this court hearing and the most likely the trial. We're going to talk about, I know there's some creators that are, potentially talking about him, possibly saying he's guilty and just going through it if they take the DP off the table. It is a possibility, but I don't know if that's really where I lie on the issue. But we're going to discuss that as well, because I want to get the poll of my chat to see what you guys think. Knowing his personality, well, we're diving into it. I guess nobody really knows who Brian Kohberger is, because even his childhood friends, they all separated from him when he lost all that weight and just had that major behavioral change. It sounds like all the people that were friends with him stopped being friends with him. But before we get started on the case and start going into more information about who John C. Judge is, and his history, we're going to get started and give our first part of our morning to God. And that's what we stand on here on the Bullhorn Betty channel. We use this book called The Language of Letting Go, which is basically a daily meditation for codependency. And we read this almost every single morning on here. We try to stay, I find it's that my audience gets something out of it when we read it. This is going to be short. The most entries are pretty extensive, but this one's pretty short. So we'll get through it quite quick. And it's for May 20th, and it says, say when it's time to get something done. I know everybody struggles with procrastination. I struggle with procrastination all the time because I just get so heavily involved in this that I don't think of anything else. And so I've been really working hard to break away from my daily job to do things that I haven't been able to do, like clean up the backyard from Hurricane Ian. I did have a crew that came in here. They didn't really do the best job. They didn't really cost a whole heck of a lot of money. So you kind of get what you pay for. So I'm stuck doing a lot of the stuff back there. So I've been making sure I get out every single day and do something around my house or in my house, just to kind of get us back, get me back on track. So yesterday we talked about using deadlines to help ourselves let go. Self-imposed deadlines can also be a way to focus our energy on tasks at hand, especially ones we've been putting off. I'm going to get up and have to clean the house by 10 a.m. I'm going to lock myself in the house and have this report written in 2 days. I'm going to get in the yard and clean it up by the weekend. Sorry. It's just hitting a little close to home. That's all. Okay. Our defects, right? Our glaring defects. There are many times in life when it's appropriate and healthy to listen to our internal clock about what to do and when to do it. Going with the flow can be a spiritual process, but there are other times when it's helpful to use self-imposed deadlines to help us get the job done. Do you need to set one of those healthy deadlines for yourself? I know Bullhorn Betty does. God help me set appropriate deadlines for myself. So this is an action item. So everybody in my audience, before we get started, that nagging thing that you have been putting off, that nagging thing. Remember, we always talk about doing acts of kindness for perfect strangers. And then last week, I spun you on your head and said, no, I want you to go embarrass yourself. Remember me saying that? And you're like, Betty, why am I going to go out and embarrass myself? Well, it's because we want you to learn to dance in the rain. And now that you've did an act of kindness for a perfect stranger, you went and embarrassed yourself and learned how to dance in the rain. Now it's time to get your butt in gear and start doing all those things on your procrastination list. So Bullhorn Betty is taking the lead in this. I've already started, and I'm going to continue to go down that road. But good morning, everybody. It's nice to see all the beautiful faces in here. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I know I usually go through a roll call, so to speak, just to tell you individually good morning. And I'm not going to be able to do that this morning, and I apologize. I have time constraints. There's a lot of stuff going on here at Casa de Bullhorn Betty. And I've just got a lot of stuff is on the plate for this Saturday. I'm going to be one busy girl. I've got stuff doing here. I've got family coming in town next week for a couple days, and got to get the house in tip-top shape. And I'm seeing a friend today, so it's going to be wonderful. The friend that I was supposed to see on Thursday, it just keeps. Maybe I should text her and make sure she's. Yeah, no, we worked on it. So I'm going to actually be at the beach again today, and I'm going to enjoy every minute of it. So I've been soaking up the rays. I've been getting out of the house. I've been just enjoying life. And I hope each and every one of you this beautiful Saturday, after this live is over, you all do the very same. Go in there and, go out and do something fun for yourself. So John C. Judge, where did he come from? What is his background? When you go in and look into it, there's really only a few creators, or I don't even know if this person's they're a creator on YouTube, but they have a business. They're more in line with legal stuff and what have you, attorney stuff rather. And so there's really not a whole lot of information out there on, YouTube that I could find during my search that really kind of dives into this judge. There's a few. I'm not going to lie. There's a few. But I actually ran across something that I had not seen before during my search. And I actually went to the docket. I checked the docket to make sure it was on there. It's not. This is a legal document that's not even on Brian Koberger's docket. And I ran across it, and I keep looking, and I've looked, and I've looked, and I've looked, and for whatever reason, I can't see it. It's not there. So I kept looking for anybody else that has, produced this or anything to the public, and I can't find it. So I went back to the docket again. I checked the docket again. I said, is this on here? I'm looking through everything from the top down to the bottom. This document does not exist on this docket. Do I know if somebody else has brought this to YouTube or other social media platforms? I don't know. I kept looking. Thank you, Tammy, for being the newest member of this crazy crew we call the Coffee Club. But I couldn't find it. I don't. And again, this is all part of me just going in there and doing searches and searches and searches and just trying to find anything I can. What I was really looking for when it came to John C. Judge was different. Him as, because he was a private attorney. Then he was appointed as a magistrate judge. And then from that, he was appointed to the district judge. So he's kind of climbed the ladder, and he's been in law for several decades as a private practice attorney. And then, of course, it came into play, I guess 2008 is when he was appointed as the Latah County magistrate. There are some concerns about this. There's concerns in any type of case like this, any kind of high profile case, a murder charge case, anything, something like that is quite, I don't know if there's a lot of experience, I guess, is my issue with this entire thing. I'm not sure that there is a lot of experience when it comes to the whole community in general. It's a small community. There's not a whole lot of people. I mean, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong. I can't remember, but for whatever reason, I want to say that there's under several thousand people, like under 10,000 people that actually reside and live in Moscow. I could be wrong about that. I may be mixing that up. I didn't check that this morning. I probably should have. But either way, it's a small community, and they don't really have a whole lot of, high profile crime cases. Have they had murder cases? Yeah, they've had murder cases in their community. But most of their stuff that they try and people go to court for is, stupid stuff. It's low level crime, so to speak, in a sense. It's drug crimes. It's, burglaries due to drug consumption, things like that. People stealing from people, violating probation. It's not really this. It's not, 4 university students slain in their beds in the middle of the night. It's something far less than that. Now, the criminal rules of procedure are the same, no matter whether. Oh, thank you, truthful soul. God bless you. No matter what the what is it? No matter what the charges, the process is still the same. You still have, the process is still the same. You still have the same evidentiary rules. You still have the same evidentiary exemptions. The process is the same. The details are different. The details from one case to the other are different, but the process, the law, all that is all the same from one case to another, from misdemeanors to felonies. The criminal process is the same. So I want to make sure that's clear. So I came across this document here, and it kind of gives us a little insight about from the judge. Why is it doing this? I don't know why it's doing this. There we go. So I came across this, and it was just something on the Judicial Council of Idaho website. And it basically states that John C. Judge has been the Latah magistrate since October 1st, 2008. Prior to his appointment to the bench, he enjoyed private practice in the Moscow area for 24 years with Landeck, Westberg, Judge, and Graham. He graduated from the University of Idaho of Law in 1984 and has been active throughout his career in speaking to law students and serving in organizations devoted to the administration of justice, ethics, and the rule of law, including 2 terms as president of the Ray McNichols American Inn of Courts. He currently serves on the Idaho State Tribal Court. So he's on the state tribal court as well. Tribal Court Forum, the Idaho Supreme Court Guardianship and Conservatorship Committee, the Magistrate Standard Form and Practice Committee, the Child Support Guidelines Committee, and the 2nd District Magistrate Commission. Judge loves his work, his family, and his life. When he does not work, he's playing outside. He was appointed to serve as an adjunct member of the Judicial Council in July 2016. So he does have a lot of great credentialing before being appointed to that magistrate position in October of 2008. And also all these extra things that I don't know if he's affiliated with those, because as a magistrate judge, he probably would have wanted to be affiliated with those types of organizations, because those are the types of organizations that he oversaw as a magistrate judge. Not those, but those laws, those rules as a magistrate judge is what he oversaw. So I'm wondering if he has different committees that he's associated with now as a district judge. I haven't been able to find them. I know there's something out there, but this is what I was able to find on the Judicial Council website. Going through this, he's really had a pretty decent record as far as being well known and liked in his community among his legal peers, his legal attorneys. The attorneys in the area have high respect for Judge in the area. But I also wanted to, this is 2018. This is when he was appointed, because he was appointed as a magistrate judge, and he sat on the bench for right about a decade. And then the governor appointed him to be the district judge in Latah County, moving him up from the magistrate judge to the judge that's going to be overseeing the Brian Kohberger case. Everybody says that he got into this case after the grand jury indictment. That is not necessarily true either. I didn't notice it at the beginning. I didn't notice this at the beginning. I believe people have talked about it, but I never paid attention to the judge signing some of these orders way at the beginning of this case. And doing this research on John C. Judge, the district judge that is now overseeing the Brian Kohberger case, I never noticed. And of course, naturally, I'm saying, okay, now he's in the case. Now everything's going to be him. Everything's going to be coming from him. So you can imagine my concern, or my just, I don't even know the word I'm trying to use, but it was just almost like a shock or an awe, like, oh, I didn't even notice this. What am I talking about? Well, let me go through this particular article real quick with you, just to give you an idea of who hired him, how did he get appointed, what is he doing. So this is formerly a magistrate, John Judge, will take over the Latah County Second District Court bench. And this was an article that came out in September 2018. The district court position has been vacated by Judge John Stegner, which was appointed to the Supreme Court. So one of their district judge of Latah ended up going to the Supreme Court, and John Judge ended up moving up to the district judge from the magistrate. And then, of course, Megan Marshall was put into the magistrate judge. Small community, there's not a whole lot of judges. And again, not a whole lot of criminal activity that would require more judges to be placed there. It's just a community that doesn't have a whole lot of crime. This is a huge case for this area, probably the biggest of its lifetime up to this point, potentially. Governor C.L. Butch Otter announced the judge's appointment Wednesday in a news release. Judge has a bachelor's degree in political science from the University of California, Santa Barbara, and earned his law degree at the University of Idaho College of Law. The eponymous judge was partnered with a firm called Landeck, Westberg, Judge, and Graham before he was appointed to the magistrate position in 2008. A Moscow Pullman Daily News article from the beginning reported he was the top among 5 finalists for the magistrate position and has been in private practice for 24 years. He's deeply grateful that the community has entrusted him with this position, yada, 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 yada. So, that was around that 2018. I just kicked myself off. But listen to what else I found before we get into the document. I want you guys to see this. So for the jury in Latah County, there's a process. You think when you talk about voir dire and questioning the jury and finding out whether they can be impartial to preside over this case, we wonder what kind of training they may get, right? What kind of training do they get? It has to be very quick type of training, to say the least. Is this it? No. Is this it? There it is. Okay. To say the least. But what do they talk about behind the scenes in the courtroom? Well, I ran across a video that they're required to watch to preside over the jury, to be a juror. And they're also provided pamphlets. So I thought before we get into the document, and then I'm going to open up the phone lines and see what you guys think, make heads or tails. But giving you and then after this, once we go through the documents, I'm going to give you my opinion, my personal opinion about John C. Judge and how I feel with his, because I've even looked at appeals orders, and we're going to go through those as well. But I wanted to show you that document and see what your thoughts are, and then we'll go over to the appellate stuff of what he's appealed. I mean, this is a guy that has served the legal community for many years. Decades, if you will. He was in practice for 24 years before he ever became a magistrate judge. He's been a magistrate judge from 2008 to 2018. That's 10 years. That's 36 years. And now from 2008 to 2023 is another 5 years, another 15 years as a judge, sitting on the bench, presiding over cases. So he's getting close to having as much judge experience as he does as a trial attorney. So my feelings about him are kind of mixed because of how small this community is. Just Samantha, good morning. She says, good morning. Need juror number 8 who spoke with Nate Eaton after the Vallow verdict. Anyone in chat see that? The guy was everything a juror should be. No, I did not see that. So so one of the jurors are already talking to somebody. Can you send me that link? Maybe we'll put it up here later in the segment related to that, just Samantha. That's great. Yeah, send that over to me. Bullhorn Betty at Gmail. Well, you know the email. send me enough. We love Just Samantha. Keeps us working over here, right? Working over here. So here's this video, and I thought it was interesting, and I wanted you guys to watch it because I stumbled across it. Let me get that off. Let me get the banner off so you guys can see it.
We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution of the United States of America. With these words, the authors of our Constitution guaranteed freedoms that are protected by law across our country and here in our beautiful state of Idaho. From the largest city to the smallest town. Thomas Jefferson reminded us that among the three bedrocks of freedom in this country are freedom of religion, freedom of speech, and the right to trial by jury. The right to jury trial allows citizens, such as yourselves, to engage in the process of our government in a way that no other public service provides. To sit in judgment on the facts of a case allows you as an individual juror to hold our government to the principles of its Constitution. We know that if we are accused of a serious crime, or if we have a significant civil dispute, there is a system that will deal justly with all parties. We know this is true because we will be judged by an impartial jury of our peers.
I am Richard Bevan, one of the 5 justices who together comprise the Idaho Supreme Court. It is an honor to welcome you to jury service in the state of Idaho. Your service is critical to our principles of freedom, fairness, and the rule of law. We have sent you some jury information materials, including a pamphlet about jury service. Now, I invite you to have a look at this brief presentation as an introduction to the important service you are about to participate in. Among the 5 justices on our Supreme Court, we have more than 160 years of combined service to the American justice system. On behalf of the court, I assure you that the entire court system could not function without you, the juror.
The system of trial by jury dates back more than 700 years. It's a great triumph of individual liberty and the exercise of government power. In fact, a trial by jury is considered so important in this country that it's guaranteed by the Constitution of the United States of America and by the Constitution of the state of Idaho. But the right to trial by jury means nothing without jurors like yourselves. That is why your service as a juror is critical. As a juror, you may be called upon to resolve a civil lawsuit, like a dispute between parties over a contract. Or you might participate in a criminal case, which requires you to decide whether a person charged with a crime is guilty or not guilty. The responsibilities are substantial, and they are very important. Regardless whether you're called for jury service in a criminal case or in a civil case, remember that the trial you are participating in is one of the most important events in the lives of the people in front of you, and your decisions will have a lasting effect on their lives. It is important that you understand the difference between a criminal and a civil trial. In a criminal trial, the accused is on trial for the jury to determine whether the state of Idaho has proven its case against the accused beyond a reasonable doubt. If you are here for a criminal trial, the judge will tell you more about this a little later. If you are here for a civil trial, each side, the plaintiff and the defendant, come to court so the jury can settle a dispute between them. The plaintiff in the civil trial is the party who has filed the lawsuit.
Because the responsibilities are so serious, regardless of the kind of case you will hear, you and your fellow citizens should think of your jury service as an honor and as a duty that should make you proud. Your friends, your neighbors, and our entire state depend on you.
Most people will only be called once or twice to serve as a juror in their entire lifetimes, so there can be a little mystery about what to expect. First, your selection as a juror was completely random. The counties throughout our state use voter registration records, a list of licensed vehicle drivers, or other sources of names to randomly select jurors. No one in Idaho is exempt from being called to jury service. Judges, attorneys, teachers, doctors, even the governor must respond if called. There are no automatic or occupational exemptions from jury service. But once you've been called, the state of Idaho tries to make your service as effective as possible. After your name was picked, you were asked to complete a questionnaire to determine if there were any reasons why you should not serve at this time. Because there were no immediate problems with your questionnaire, you were given instructions to report to a courthouse or other facility to begin service on a particular date and time. If you ever have questions about your jury service, your jury commissioner or other court staff can help answer your questions. Coming to court is still a fairly formal event, even in today's culture where being casual is commonplace. You'll be expected to wear comfortable but professional or business casual attire, and you should wear clothing that avoids offensive graphics or has any other reason to be out of place in a dignified court setting. This kind of formality is still appropriate for the seriousness of a jury trial. Once you arrive at the courthouse, you will be directed to a jury assembly area, and from this point forward, your day will be very structured. You may notice that a lot more jurors have been called than you might have expected, certainly more than a 6 or 12 member jury. This is called a jury pool. Once you've reached the courtroom, you will be seated in the gallery, sometimes in a pre-selected random order. You will be administered an oath or affirmation to serve as a juror, and the judge will give you some important information about the case. Right away, you will be asked to view this presentation, and then you will be questioned by the judge and by the attorneys in a process known as voir dire. This is an old French phrase, and it means to speak the truth. It is the time in the trial when jurors are asked careful questions by the judge, as well as the attorneys. These questions aren't meant to pry into your private lives, but they are essential to allow both parties to obtain information necessary to select the jury they decide will be appropriate for their case. Some of you may be excused from the jury panel during or after this process. The law allows a juror to be excused for 2 reasons. The first reason is called challenge for cause, meaning the lawyers may ask that you be excused for some legal reason. For example, you may be related to one of the parties. The second reason is called a peremptory challenge. Both parties are given an equal number of these challenges. Peremptory challenges occur at the end of the questioning process. The lawyers are not required to give a reason for these challenges, although neither party may excuse you based on your race or gender. In this way, each party has an equal say about who makes up the jury. You should not consider a challenge to be any reflection on your ability or character. In fact, the same attorney or party may choose you for another case, for the very reason you're not selected in this case. When you're asked a question during voir dire, please speak clearly and truthfully. If you're asked a question that you feel is personal or private, just let the judge know, and you will likely be given an opportunity to discuss the matter privately. If you're chosen to sit as one of the jurors for the case, you will play an important role in our system of justice. Once the jury has been selected and seated, the trial will be presented to the jury by all sides in the case. The judge will read you instructions that establish the rules for how to conduct yourself as a juror. You will also be given a description of the law that applies to the case you are deciding. You will usually get to see all of the trial, but once in a while, the attorneys and the judge may need to speak privately where you cannot hear them. Don't be concerned about that. It's just one way that our fair trial system has developed over time. No doubt you have seen plenty of court drama TV shows or movies, and you're probably pretty familiar with the roles of each of the key players in a jury trial already. First, you might notice a person near the judge's bench typing very fast during the trial. This is the court reporter, who is responsible for creating a word-for-word record of the trial. Some courts in Idaho use audio recorders for this process, and some use both systems. The bailiff is another important person in the jury trial. The bailiff is in charge of maintaining order in the courtroom and assists the judge and jury during court proceedings. He or she may also be given the job of handling documents, papers, or other evidence. The court clerk is usually seated close to the judge. The clerk is responsible for a variety of functions, including administering oaths and affirmations, keeping track of exhibits presented in court, and other important clerical duties. Then you will see the judge, as well as the attorneys and the parties in the case. The judge and the attorneys and witnesses will get most of your attention during the trial, but it is vital throughout the trial that you follow the rules for juror conduct. I want to highlight the most important rules now. You should not read, listen to, or view news media accounts about your trial. You must base your decision solely on what you learn in the courtroom. Newspaper, radio, or television reports might give you an unbalanced view of the case, or might cause you or other jurors to form hasty conclusions before all of the evidence and testimony has been presented. That would be unfair to the parties and to the jury trial process. You might be tempted to informally discuss this case with your fellow jurors on a break, or to tell your friends about the trial details. You might be strongly tempted to use your mobile devices or computers at home in order to look into jury trial rules, or to do a little legal research on your own. Social media activity of all kinds will be another big temptation while you are serving on a jury. Those temptations must be avoided no matter what. Please remember to stay off of the internet and social media during the jury trial. Please use your cell phone only for communication rather than for surfing the web or social media. This is because the information you will be shown, called evidence, and the instructions in the law that will be given you by the judge should be evaluated by you and the other jurors without any outside influences. If you use outside information, it can cause the jury trial to be invalidated in a process called a mistrial.
If you become aware of any outside influence like this, we need you to let the bailiff or your jury commissioner know about it. Please do this confidentially. Keep an open mind. Do not form hasty opinions or conclusions. Rather, wait until all the evidence has been presented and the case has been submitted to make up your mind. Control your emotions, too, if possible. Jury trials can be filled with emotion, and you may be confronted with exhibits or testimony that makes you feel uncomfortable. If your case will involve this type of evidence, the judge and the attorneys will give you a chance to comment about your feelings during voir dire. Please do so, and try your best to remain objective throughout the trial.
After all the testimony has been given and after evidence has been presented, the judge will explain the issues you must decide upon and give you more rules of law that apply to the case. Each attorney then has the opportunity to make closing arguments to summarize the case from their perspective. The closing argument is not evidence. It's simply the attorney's opportunity to persuade you about the strength of the evidence that supports their positions. As a juror, you're in a position of great responsibility, especially at this moment. Once the judge has instructed you on the law and the lawyers have offered their closing arguments, you'll be escorted into the jury room for deliberations. First, you must select a presiding juror to act as a discussion leader. Then you will begin your deliberations. Again, it's important for you to consider carefully the evidence that was presented and the judge's instructions about the law. Please voice your opinions and listen to the opinions of the other jurors while you're deliberating. Your active participation is expected during deliberations. When it comes time to vote, base your decision on the facts and the instructions as given you by the judge. Any communications made with the judge at this point must be made in writing. The presiding juror will pass the written note to the bailiff, and then it will be presented to the judge, who will answer the question or give guidance, usually in writing. Once you and the other jurors have reached a verdict, you will return to the courtroom in order to pass the verdict to the judge. The judge or the clerk may read it out loud, or the judge may ask the presiding juror to read it out loud. Sometimes, each juror may be asked to confirm that the verdict is correct. After the verdict has been read, your job is completed. When leaving the jury room, you do not have to talk to anyone, not even the press, about your thoughts on the trial. If you decide you want to speak about the case, you should be careful to respect the privacy of your fellow jurors by giving only your perception and feelings.
As an American citizen and a resident of the state of Idaho, you are guaranteed certain freedoms by our Constitution. One is the right to a trial judged by an impartial jury. Your different backgrounds and life experiences are crucial to make this system work. You bring a unique perspective in analyzing the case, which provides balance and fairness for all. On behalf of the Idaho judiciary and the citizens of the state of Idaho, I thank you for your participation. Thank you for watching, and thank you for this important public service.
So I just really thought that that was interesting because we don't really, unless you've presided over a jury, and not only that, but every state conducts their legal process a little different. So I was really curious about the state of Idaho, specifically the state of Idaho. And when I ran across this, I'm like, okay, well, this makes sense because we hear about the jury instructions. We know that, that they're guided somehow. But I didn't know that when they get past voir dire and they're selected as the jury, I didn't know they had this like requirement of watching a video, having to read through some literature, having some handouts. And you can see that they really provide great instruction about basically saying, if you're a juror, just stay off the internet. Because, and it's a good guidance, because even if you are playing on the internet, say on Facebook, just doing personal stuff, you may actually unintentionally run across an article that, and you turn it down, you move it away. But what if there's a statement, in throughout your news feed about this case and about who thinks what? So they're actually asking them, refrain from even going on the internet, so you're not even accidentally exposed to information. And it sounds like a lot of jurors, which I'm glad they do, take this seriously. They take their job as a juror seriously. And that's super, super important. But what does it have to do with the judge? The topic's the judge. Not really anything. It was just something that I stumbled across, and I thought my audience would be very interested in knowing what kind of training the jurors get before they preside over a case. Well, this is one of the videos they're required to watch before being the juror. So they sit them in a room, they give them the pamphlet, they probably have somebody there talking to them, giving them instructions, they give them this video. This video to me was very moving. If I was a juror and I saw this video, I would refrain from social media. I would refrain from discussing the case. I would, have pride and be proud of being a juror presiding over whatever case that I'm a juror presiding over. But honestly, this would actually move me. Right? It would make me not want to, may not, want me to do anything. Like, I would want to follow the instructions thoroughly because of this video. I like the video. It was a good, and that was the judge from the Supreme Court. So I thought that was interesting. So what document do I have that I've stumbled across? It's this one right here. It's this one right here. Let me put it a little bit bigger. That one right there. Order governing courthouse and courtroom conduct. And you're going to say, we've already seen this. Well, when I go over to the docket, here's the docket. When I go over to the docket and I look at these things, We have the affidavit, the probable cause order, the arrest warrant, the criminal complaint, invocation of rights, order appointing public defender, limited notice of appearance, motion to preserve the crime scene and evidence, the order to preserve the crime scene and evidence, notice defendant arrest in foreign jurisdiction, stipulation for non-dissemination order, and their second amended order. So we have the seating. Hold on here. We have the second amended order right here, but I haven't seen the first one. Now, maybe the first one has been out and I have overlooked it, but this one, but what was interesting about either one of these is look at who signed them. Look at who signed them. So at what point did John C. Judge really get into this case? The very first order was January 3rd. This second one was January 9th, 4th. So the very next day, he signs this into order. Well, at the beginning of the case. Here's my problem with it. Who's the one that has been violating the media's rights to this? Because it sounds to me like, we were upset with Meghan Marshall about her orders and stuff. But to me, it sounds like she has been taking direction from the district judge that was most likely going to be taking over this entire case later after he was indicted on the charges of burglary and the 4 charges of first-degree murder. And so I never noticed that John C. Judge, the district judge, was signing these orders all the way at the beginning of this case. The day that Brian Kohberger came back to the state of Idaho, he was charged. How did it all work out? Let me try to go back to my memory. He was arrested on January 3rd, or excuse me, December 30th. If I recall correctly, it was January 3rd that he had his first appearance in the court in Pennsylvania, Monroe County, Pennsylvania. And he was immediately extradited. They were there waiting for him to take him back. He left that jail that day. Once extradition was waived, he left the jail that day and made it back. And I believe he got back here late on the 3rd, or I can't remember, maybe it was the very next day, the 4th. Those days are a little, confusing. But either way, he waived extradition, and the first non-dissemination, or excuse me, the first order of courtroom conduct was issued on there and then modified on the 4th. So I want to read this to you. So who was really behind this whole entire blocking the public out of a public trial? And are we going to get relief in John C. Judge's court with him presiding over it? And my answer is I don't think we are. I really don't. I think he's going to push this and push this and push this until he can't push it any further. And at that point, he may modify the order, or he may force the Gonzalez family as well as the media to push this back to the Supreme Court. Because to me, it sounds like Meghan Marshall, now that I'm reviewing all this stuff, was getting her guidance from the district judge, Judge John C. Judge. That's the way I'm looking at this. That's the way I'm reviewing this. And if we look at this order, now this is the one that's actually in effect right now, unless there's a third. Is this the one? This is the second. Yeah. So this is the one that's in effect right now. And it goes through the court seating, which we have. And I believe they did update this just recently, because we did discuss yesterday. Well, maybe we didn't discuss. I did receive yesterday the modified order for the Zoom call. That we were finally happy that Meghan Marshall was going to allow us to attend digitally this hearing. And yet again, John C. Judge went behind her and blocked the public that is not going to be there personally out of this case. So they do not really, they believe public, it appears to me that in the Idaho state, it appears that what they construe or believe is a public trial is you being there in person. It doesn't seem like they want to have the public really involved in this case. It doesn't seem like they really want this to be a public trial, because public is public. I don't see, me personally, and I've said this over and over again, I don't see the difference in public being there in person and crowding people in a small courtroom, or having a way for the public to watch away from the courtroom. What they're going to do is they're going to drive the masses to the courtroom, and they're not going to have a place for everybody. And at the end of the day, this is our right as citizens. Like, we're the people, we're the taxpayers. And it seems like a public trial should be that. Back in the day when they allowed only publications and TVs, that was prior to social media. That was prior to social media. And if you look at the Supreme Court ruling in Packingham versus North Carolina, the U.S. Supreme Court identifies social media as the public square. They've identified the social media as the public square, i.e., no different than television or newspaper, also considered public square. So I really don't understand this. You know, if it's public and it's open to the public and up for public consumption, what difference does it make whether you're there in person or watching on TV? Because what's going to end up happening is there's going to be so many people there. Guess what they're going to end up doing? They're going to end up putting a lot of people in an overflow room watching what? Oh, a TV? Oh, a live stream? Gotcha. It makes no sense to me. It literally makes no sense to me. They can put orders in place to prevent the actual distribution and live streaming until after the hearing is over. But to block us out and not allow us to even watch the trial, watch these hearings that are open to the public, that are part and open to public consumption, it's really starting to feel like it's an attack on the press. It feels like it's an attack on social media. It feels like judges and there's certain judges across this country that are pushing the media out and pushing the public out of these public hearings. And I'm starting to see that shift, especially over the last year. We've seen that shift happen quite drastically in a lot of these high profile cases. Now, non-dissemination orders are a great tool to use in their limited capacity. They're not to be, they're to be limited. They have to be limited in scope. They have to be limited in time. This blanket non-dissemination order on a public trial that just blankets the entire case, it's overly broad, unduly burdensome, vague, and there's less restrictive means to provide that same fair trial. And they're not doing anything. They're catapulting from the bottom up to the top of the hill without doing the necessary steps to get to the top of that hill. Kind of like what the media did when they jumped the gun and took it straight to the Supreme Court. They catapulted themselves to the top of the mountain, and they were required to do certain steps. This judge realizes at this point that he's probably not going to be successful if they keep the non-dissemination order the way it is. However, I'm interested to see what he's planning on doing to modify it. But it sounds to me, I'm sorry, that all of this has been, even Meghan Marshall, how she's been handling this, has been at the direction of the district judge. So let's see, cell phones, security screening, cell phones are permitted but must be turned off. You know, the same kind of order that was attached to the recent notice of hearing, and it's going over the media coverage. The court allows cameras in the courtroom and orders that media coverage be pulled. Then all media shall have access to share the video, audio, and still photos received from permitted cameras. Members of the media shall designate and agree on the operator of each camera permitted. So they're going to actually allow the media, the media that's there, decide for themselves, it appears, which person is going to be the stilled camera pooled photographer and which one's going to be the video and audio videographer for that. It says right here, members of the media shall designate and agree on the operator. So the judge is not even making an order saying, like we did in Alec Murdaugh, where they had Court TV as the pooled, they ordered Court TV to be the pooled reporter in that case. This one is giving that decision over to the media that is present, I'm assuming, at the time of this hearing as to who will be the responsible person for getting that. But there's other media organizations out there that I feel like are going to be hindered by this process, because how do they know who to contact to get that pooled video, audio, and photographs? Who do we reach out to get that? That's what's in it. I feel that somebody, some news organizations or media or social media or somebody that identifies as press is going to be limited on what they can get, even though they have a right to that, like everybody else. So I'm interested in finding out who the pooled reporter is. And once we do, we will get that pooled coverage and pooled stuff sent to us. So courtroom media requirements allow media representative and their equipment will be located in an area of the courtroom designated by the administrative district judge or presiding judge. So the judge, John C. Judge, will be the one that tells them where they can put their cameras. It most likely be maybe his clerk or somebody representing for him after discussion to carry out that, making sure everybody's there. 2 audio and video recording devices and 1 stilled camera inside the courtroom. Any additional cameras have 2 traditional still cameras shall have a silent shutter. So they don't want to hear the they don't want to hear that. It has to have a silent shutter, no flash. We've already heard all of this stuff before. But what I find interesting is this was January 4th, 2023. So does my audience feel that Megan C. Marshall, like me personally have been very, very upset with Megan Marshall over her handling of this particular matter, And then further, this last order where she basically gives this opinion. And I said, this seems really coordinated. And I truly believe it was coordinated. I believe it was coordinated between her and the district judge. They probably have been in communications on how to handle it. And he probably gave her guidance and said, well, they didn't do it this way. Maybe you can catch them on this. And enforcing them, even though they've got this order from this, that they're following this. If everything is not I dotted a T cross, they're not budging. They want this. They want the public out as long as possible. And it appears that Megan Marshall and Judge do not want the public. They don't want the public. That's what it seems. We need transparency in the court. Absolutely. I agree with you 100%, Mike. I absolutely agree with you. Because here's the issue. We know that John C. Judge, he has a great record. He was a private attorney. He was loved and admired by his community. He was one of the top contenders out of 5 people for the magistrate position. So highly qualified, highly recommended for the magistrate position. And then when the district judge moved up to the Supreme Court, they moved John C. Judge up to the district court to take that judge's position. My problem here is, and it's no disrespect to the judge has the qualifications. He doesn't have the experience with this type of case, in my opinion. Much like Megan C. Marshall, I feel like they haven't had these types of cases, this type of case. This is a very complicated case, and there's going to be a lot of laws. And I'm so concerned because I see the willful violation of the First Amendment to the Constitution and willful violation to the accompanying Ohio State statute and Constitution. I see willful violation from the judges in this matter. And that causes me great concern, because if they are willing to violate our rights, what other rights are they willing to violate? And it does make me a little concerned. Now, granted, this is just a legal, that it's his legal opinion. his legal argument that he has a right to do this. It appears based upon the statements and opinion of the Supreme Court that they will probably be leaning in the favor, if all allegations that the media present are true and correct. It seems to me that the Supreme Court is going to be leaning in favor of the media based upon that opinion. Again, the caveat is if all of their claims are proven. To me, based on everything I see, it will be easily proven that what they're claiming has taken place took place. Now, we're starting to see that because of this attention being brought to this non-dissemination order and constant clarification, even though the order has not been amended or modified since the inception of the gag order, it's been modified like once. And then a memorandum of law to try to support that order, which was, I've seen it before, but it's never good when you have to have a memorandum of law to explain an order. That in and of itself, to me, tells you that that is vague and overly broad if you have to have that memorandum of law, and that's what they have to do. So I feel like and the Supreme Court did state that, it appears based on the information that they previewed that they do have standing to bring this case to the Supreme Court. I really hope, this is what I really hope happens. I hope that this judge does not force this to the Supreme Court. And here's why. Because it's going to be another law, that when it goes to that Supreme Court, now they have to follow that. That means any cases that come before them in the future, after this case is over and done, they will have to be very strict on how they do those non-dissemination orders. If they just decide to do a reasonable resolution that all parties can agree to and issue that order, that would be the best possible outcome, because you're not going to the Supreme Court. You're not having them rule on this. You're not having an opinion published or unpublished, condemning or bringing this back down to the lower court to rehear it. You don't want that as a judge, first and foremost. And secondly, to me, it just seems like you wouldn't want that law, because it may prevent you from being able to do something in the future, because now you have a Supreme Court ruling on that. And I just really wish that they would do, something that keeps the Second District Court of Appeals, or not the Second District Court of Appeals, but the Court of Appeals, the Supreme Court rather, the Supreme Court out of this. I really wish they'd keep it out of this, because again, once they give that opinion, it's done. And they don't need that. They just need to come up with a reasonable resolution that everyone can live with and good instructions. Because I'm telling you, I'm not hunting down Dylan Mortensen or Bethany Funk. Now, are there are other creators out there? We've watched other creators do some of the most unthinkable things to these people. And so I do understand that not everybody is like us. Not everybody is, there are people out there that just, they want the story and they're going to get it at all costs. And there are still people out there that still believe Jack D did this. Like, seriously. There are still people out there talking about Jack D. And I feel so bad, because I keep thinking about like Ethan Chapin. And, if he wasn't there that night and it was only the girls that got killed, that poor man's life would have been turned upside down too. Because people took the slightest bit of conjecture and turned it into these kids were, there was people going after Jack D, Jake, Jack, and literally telling them that they murdered them. How dare they murder them? I'm like, and I remember when I heard that, I went on my live and I said to our audience here, I'm like, please don't engage in that. We do not have enough information to say one way or another that somebody did it. Now, do we bring perspective? We say, is it possible? These people weren't in that, opening the conversation. They were stating it as fact that Jack D slaughtered his girlfriend because he was angry that she broke up with him. That is literally what they were saying on social media. I felt so bad. I really did. And one of the reasons why we opted to go out there the first time is that I had to know. I had to get the vibe. I had to know. I did not want to go after These kids are start opening, getting into their life if they had nothing to do with it. And I'm telling you, as soon as I got out there and got to that house, there was no, it closed my worry box with those kids. I did know it was another person. I didn't believe I believed they were under 30. I've said that multiple times. He happens to be 28. We found out. But when I got there, I remember one of the first vibes that I got from being there was that this guy had been there multiple times, and that I thought that he had tried to do this. He wanted to carry out this act multiple times prior to this night. It's just this night, for whatever reason, he got the kahunas to finally go through with it. And then we find out that he was there like 12 other times. And it made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. This judge, I don't know how I really feel about him. I want to give him the benefit of the doubt and see how this whole court hearing goes on Monday. I think once we hear him talk, once we hear how he runs his courtroom, I think it's going to give us a little more insight on how this judge feels, what this judge's appetite for the law is, how he's leaning. He's supposed to be unbiased, yes, but it's still law is an interpretation and opinion, so to speak. So that's why you can have one ruling in a second district court of appeals that is completely opposite of the same factors in this fourth district court of appeals. You can literally have two opposing opinions from two different appellate judges in two separate districts, and they both be opposite of one another, because it's about the opinion of that. It's theory. You're basically saying, here's the law, here's my interpretation of the law, and here's the case law that supports my interpretation of the law. And that's what happens on the other side as well, on the opposing argument side of it. They put theirs, they put the law in, they put their interpretation of the law, and they put their case law that supports that. So is this judge really going to keep this locked down? Are we going to have another Lori Vallow type of case in Idaho? I'm really hoping not, but we're preparing that be the case. I will tell you, I will be out there for the duration of this trial. When this trial starts, which we've heard, he's waived his rights to a speedy trial. So it's possible that his trial is going to be way into 2025, even possibly encroaching into 2026 before he ever goes to trial for this. We're planning on being there. If they plan on having a 6-week trial, I plan on staying there for 6 weeks. If it's an 8-week trial, I plan on staying there 8 weeks. It might be one of those things where I do, instead of getting a round trip ticket, I may just go ahead and just fly out there, because as we know in trials, just like Letitia Stout, we were well above, we, believe it or not, even though it was a long trial, they ended that trial much sooner than they had anticipated. Well, I don't want to be sitting out in Moscow, Idaho, in the middle of nowhere after the trial is over. All right. And it's going to probably cost a lot of money. Probably going to cost me just the same amount of money to get a one-way ticket back to Florida. So we'll monitor that as that comes. But we will, depending on how this judge rules and if he's going to open his courtroom up to the public, truly open it up to the public, there may be some things that we're just going to have to fly out there and be there personally to get the coverage. Otherwise, we may not be able to. So we may not be able to get the coverage, and we have to, get it off the pool. And I don't like that. I want to feel the vibe. I want to hear the stuff. I want to get my own opinions about everything. It'll be nice to see. So I'm going to go ahead and open up. And we got several other things that I've been able to look up, and it's some of his court, put this up here. It's some of his appellate stuff. Like he as a private attorney, he was able to represent certain clients. And in this particular matter, the one that you're seeing up here right now, this was one, a lady, she was charged. She was caught with methamphetamines. She had burglary charges, and she was put on She was sentenced to 5 years in jail, 2 years of, probation after she gets out of jail. And they went before the judge, and the judge did agree to let her out on probation. Well, she violated that probation, and they made her serve her sentence in its entirety. She was taken into jail and was made to serve her sentence out behind bars because of the violation of law. And so they actually challenged this particular matter to the appellate court. And this is while John C. Judge, this was when he was presiding over this case. Yes, John C. Judge. This is one of is this one of his first ones? No, this is a recent one. Commuted her back to jail and said, no, you violated probation. We're going to send you back to jail. Well, her attorneys appealed this opinion from John C. Judge, and the appellate court upheld his decision, saying that he has that discretion. So he does preside over cases well and thoroughly. But again, this is more petty in nature compared to the Brian Koberger case. There were other cases that I found related to him. And one that he took, he was successful on. Is this the one he was successful on? I think this is the one he was successful on, State versus Smith. State, yeah, I think this is it. He was actually the presiding counsel. He was counsel for the defendant in this particular case, and this was the State versus Smith. And in the State versus Smith case, they were basically saying that the jury pool was tainted because the judge provided the wrong. I'll just read it. The case presents a potpourri of issues relating to the conviction of the first-degree burglary and determination that the defendant is presiding a persistent violator. So that was the crux of this: is that the judge allowed this persistent violator rule in, even though he did take this to the appellate court. This was the case that was that didn't give him favorable results. They basically affirmed the judgment of the district court. So even though he had an argument, he had what he thought was a good legal appellate argument, he fell a little short, and this particular case was affirmed by the appellate court. So it just gives me a lot of information and insight on, especially like how he ruled in particular matters. And I also have some other cases that are in the appellate court that I'm monitoring that was he presiding over? No, he was the actual defense attorney for. And I've got two cases like that. This one here, which was, let me go up to the top. I was down at the bottom to read what they had said. And this was, let me see. Give me just a second. It's a little slow. It was like 100 and some odd pages. And this was the State versus Amstad. And this was a person, smoking marijuana in their vehicle in a parking lot of an apartment complex. And the argument here was whether that constitutes a premise or not. So it was actually it's actually a pretty interesting case. So it just gives me a little idea about how he does law. And so this one was also another one. And this is Mance, Idaho, the state of Idaho versus Tim Carl Mance, another case that he was private counsel for that ends up going to the Supreme Court. And when you get down to the bottom of it, he does have something. So he, as a defense counsel, he is, he's going to appeal stuff when he feels or his client feels they are wrongly convicted or wrongly accused or something of that nature. So it is part of his job. But in most appellate cases, you will find that they are denied, that the lower courts are typically reaffirmed or affirmed and concurred with by the appellate court or the Supreme Court or whatnot. Typically, it's a hard burden to overcome unless you have a really good legal argument for that and an overwhelming amount of case law to support it. So I really do believe that he is a good judge. I'm not going to dog or knock him about whether he's a good judge or not. And I also found out, he's also part, or at least in 2012, which wasn't really that long ago, he's actually a part of, or has been a part of, the Idaho Legal History Society, which makes me feel good because at least he understands the history of the law. He's part of this, this large outfit and network of people that are associated with the Idaho Legal History Society. And it lists their members, and they've got a lot of members, quite frankly, in the 2011-2012 timeframe. Now, granted, the membership fee is only $25 for this, and it may just be, in their opinion, just $25 to have something else to add to it is a drop in the bucket. That may very well be it, or maybe he was really involved with the Legal History Society. I'm unsure. I can't find one way or another, but I can find that he absolutely was, without a doubt, affiliated with them and a member of the Idaho Legal History Society. So, what is my true opinion about the judge? I truly believe Judge John C. Judge is very good and highly qualified as a judge. He's highly qualified as a district judge. My only concern, and I'm not going to hit his record. His record is a great record. He has an amazing record. It's, in law, he has a very good record, in my opinion, as an attorney, and as a magistrate judge, he has a pretty good record. My only concern is the lack of experience in this type of case. That is my only concern, is because I interpretation of the law, as I started at the beginning of this segment, when I was talking to all of you and saying that he doesn't have, I'm in a sticky spot here because I don't want to dog this judge. I think he has a great background. I think he appears in all respects to be fair. He appears to be a strong judge. What do I mean by that? He doesn't mind if people willfully violate orders or violate like probation. He has no problem putting them in jail. He doesn't appear, he gives you an opportunity, and you better, walk a thin line if he's a judge presiding over your case. I think he's very firm, but I don't think he's unfair. With the law, because of the interpretation aspect of it, it would be my hope that he interprets the law properly. But with his lack of experience in this type of case, that is literally the only concern I have. I think this judge, he appears to be somebody that's highly respected in this community by his legal peers. He seems to be very knowledgeable about the law. He has, decades experience in law. He has he has the political science degree. He went to the University of California, Santa Barbara, and the University of Idaho. His alma mater, I can't even pronounce that anymore. Alma mater, right? And, even some people said, well, he went to that college. Will he have to recuse himself as a judge? I don't think him going to a college for a law degree and presiding over a case that involves students that went to that very school creates a need for him to recuse himself from this case. Typically, what would allow him to recuse himself from this case is, he knows Brian, he knows because in the grand scheme, they're going to know each other. Like, he's going to know the judge or the prosecutors, and Nancy Taylor. He's going to know them because they're in the legal community. These people get in front of him regularly, most likely. Like William Thomas gets in front of him, has taken cases before him, I'm sure. So they know, but it's not that. It's the witnesses. There's a lot of things. And maybe that'll be a conversation. Maybe we'll go through that later today, this afternoon, potentially, about what requirements are for recusal. But I don't think that him going to the college rises to that level of recusal, just me personally. But he has, it does state here that he has gone back to the school and has helped some kids. So if he had contact with one of the students, or if he went and spoke at a class at Wazoo and came into contact with Brian Kohberger, could that raise to the level of needing to be recused? Maybe. But typically whenever either the state or the defense moves for the recusal or the removal of a judge, it's usually an egregious act that the judge has done to the case that jeopardized it, or just does not have the proper knowledge of specific laws, and they want to move to recuse. So there are several different reasons for recusal. One is, obviously, the person, and you can't preside as a judge if you know the person. So I don't think he's going to recuse himself from this case just because he got his law degree from the University of Idaho. All right, guys. So now comes the time. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? Because of I'm trying to decide how to do this, because we know that we have, I'm trying to decide whether I want to open the phone lines to the public, or if I want to do something behind, maybe drop the link, because I have a little more control bringing people up on panel when they call in, or when they come here without showing their face, and they can talk like they are on the phone. Be kind. Is it your birthday? Be kind. If it's your birthday, happy birthday. Happy birthday. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and open up the phone lines just for a few moments and see if you guys have anything that you would like to all right. So if you guys would like to call in and maybe discuss, maybe somebody like just Samantha has done her due diligence or something on John C. Judge, that you may have some perspective or some information that you can give me. Or maybe if you did look into him, what your opinion of him is. I can personally tell you that my opinion of him is very favorable. And again, it's just the lack of experience in this type of case, not the lack of experience. I don't want people misunderstanding what I'm truly saying. I'm not saying that he has he doesn't have the necessary, he seems he's a phenomenal judge and highly respected. It's just this type of case. Moscow, Idaho does not. And you know what? I think this type of case, in all fairness, is challenging for any judge to preside over. Okay. This type of case is going to be challenging no matter what, no matter what. So we're just praying for the judge. We're praying for the judge's discernment and tenacity and understanding of the facts of this case. We're also praying that the judge, allows the public to be part of this public trial. Those are things that we pray for. We understand he has a job to do. And his job is not the media, right? That's not his job is to preside over the courts and to do the best they can to provide a fair trial for Brian Kohberger. That's the only care that a judge really has in the world. But the problem here is that where the hiccups coming in my opinion, is that typically the cases they preside over doesn't have such intense media scrutiny and attention. And that's where this is going to get a little sticky, because at the end of the day, the media has a right to provide the news to the public for this type of case. The media and press has a right to this information. And we're not asking for, information that's not due to the media, due to social media, due to the public. We're not asking for stuff that can hinder this case or cause problems. We're only asking for what we're entitled to. I think that's for everybody. We're not asking for any more or any less than what is under the law, what we're entitled to have. And the way the law works, the great news is if we got what we're entitled to have, there's plenty of news based upon that. We don't need to go and beat people up over stuff that we're not entitled to have, right? Like witness lists and stuff like that. We're not entitled to that this early on. We don't usually even see a witness list until close to trial. Right before trial, we get the witness list of people that are going to be at the trial. But we never get it really this far. So stuff like that, I don't care about. I think anybody that's been following this case for any length of time, in all fairness, probably knows who all the people are that are most likely going to be called in this case to begin with, So I'm not sure. I'm really interested in what you guys think about this judge. Based upon this information, do you guys get the same opinion? And what did you think about that, about the jury video? I thought that was, I didn't know they forced them. I've never sat, I've been called the jury, but I never sat on a jury, right? I've been called the jury. I haven't been called in some time, but I have been called for jury. And I typically just, I don't like it. It's been quite a few years though. It's been quite a few years. Can I call and just say, I love you? Yeah, be kind, call in. It's for anybody, any of the audience. You can call in, but I'm going to pick your brain and ask you about this case. But absolutely. And happy birthday. Actually, why don't you call in so I can tell you happy birthday personally? So we've got some definitely interesting facts about this. We definitely were able. Oh, and not only that, but how many people knew that John C. Judge? I mean, was Bullhorn Betty just sleeping at the wheel? Because I just feel like nobody brought up John C. Judge, and well, I shouldn't say that. There was like that attorney she brought up, and I brought her up on this. I can't show you because I got the phones open, but her name is Andrea Burkhart. There was only a few people, but I found hers to be the most, actually, I think she was really the only one. To be honest with you, I think because she did hers back in January, I think she looked at the order and saw his name on it. And this being such a small community, I mean, there's only so many, what does it say? Bullhorn, Joe wants you to do a poll. Okay, hold on. Okay, well then hold on a second. Let me see about a poll. Do you think Judge has the experience? Do you think Judge has the experience? Oh, I misspelled that. Oh, because I didn't finish the sentence. Okay. All right, so we'll put that in there. That's poll number 1. That's poll number 1. We'll see what that derives, and we'll go from there. And for my visually impaired audience, the number is 724-249-6140. This is Betty.
Hi, Betty. It's Be Kind.
Hi, Be Kind. How are you doing, my love? Happy birthday. Is it your birthday today?
No, my birthday's Thursday, but I have surgery Wednesday, so I'm celebrating today.
You're going to be jammed up your birthday. Blech.
Right.
Well, happy
It's
early
all
birthday to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Just wanted to say hi. Thank you. I love you. I am dedicated to your show, and thank you for bringing all us amazing people together.
Yeah, we do have a nice crew over here. There's no doubt about that. Let me ask you a question. We went over some stuff. How do you feel? Like I'm kind of, I have to be honest with you. I'm kind of upset to find out that it was Judge John C. Judge that kind of kicked all this, courtroom decorum and non-dissemination and all this other stuff to the forefront. And I kind of, now that I'm looking at this case in a different light, I kind of feel like Megan Marshall was taking his directive. And it's, maybe she was, because it does happen behind the scenes. I've known of judges to
I agree.
talk about stuff like this behind the scenes. And now I'm starting to feel like it's been Judge doing all this behind the scenes and her following out his wishes because they knew it was ultimately going to wind up in his courtroom, and that all this might be Judge instead of Megan Marshall.
Yes, I agree.
And then what do we do if it's the judge?
It's sad. I think it's being team tagged all the way around.
I feel like it. I feel like that, like the legal minds in Moscow are like sitting at a round table and like having a discussion on how can we keep the public out.
Right. And they can't.
And I know that's not happening, but I'm just envisioning this because it just feels like it.
To me, it sounds like a bunch of dirtiness going on.
And it's hard to get around that because all you want them to do for me is just respect, the press as well. Like, the press is wanting.
We have a right to know. The public has a right to know.
Right. And not only that, but listen to this. I also was thinking about this last night, and I didn't want to bring it up because I thought it might be, because I don't want to like dog the judge or anything in this, because I do think he has he has the respect of the community. But it makes me nervous when you have the judge, the prosecutor, and the defense working overtime to keep the public out of a trial. What's going on in that trial that they're trying for the public not to see? Are they making mistakes?
My same exact question. That was my same exact question. What is it that they're trying to keep from us?
Right. And it makes me nervous because, they can violate the law and not be held accountable the more secret everything is. And I'm just, it's getting to the point where it's just making me nervous as a citizen. Taking away the channel and everything, but just as a citizen, wanting to get some information on this case. it's really that this whole thing is really making me nervous. I don't know of any other case that we've had a lot of high profile cases. We've been involved with a lot of high profile cases. And, this seems like they're working overtime. And not only that, but, the community itself is saying, all these news organizations are really, putting the community in this funk and stuff like that. They're never getting. So why wouldn't you want to try to remove some of that out of the community so the community has some room to breathe? You're forcing everybody back into the community, surrounding those students, surrounding the university, speculating on information that's inaccurate. It's not stopping people from talking about this case. It's stopping people.
Right. They're making it worse.
Right. I think they're making it worse. I think this is having the opposite effect than what it's intended.
I agree. 100%. 100%. I agree. It was my same thought.
Yeah.
Hey, I do have a question though regarding the Maddie case out of
Minnesota.
Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, it's pronounced Winona.
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 You know.
Every time you say Winona, I laugh.
Winona.
Okay. So.
And I'm probably going to call it Winona anyways because I like Winona.
I know, and I'm going to laugh every time. So since you were up there, and you saw the surroundings, what is your thought process on the fact that he possibly could have put her in the river and all the driving around was to throw Ellie off?
I think anything is possible. I really do, because you really don't know how that person processes information. And I think that's key to understanding how they're going to think.
Right.
But the information that I've been getting is that he was more well known or knew the community of Fillmore County a lot better than Winona.
Absolutely. That's what I heard too.
So it's causing this problem because when you get into the mind, like I'm trying to process this. Now, I'm never going to be in the mind of a killer, but I try to think of what somebody would be going through when they kill someone. And I keep thinking, you're racing, you're not thinking. And I almost like in a shock type thing. And I take myself back to an experience I had, like with my dog. I told everybody about half the time I was in shock and my brain literally shut off. I couldn't, I'm looking at my phone and couldn't even think to dial a number or a name. I'm looking at a dead phone. Right. And I'm looking up and like, who the hell am I supposed to be calling right now? Like
you never know how you're going to react to anything until it really happens. You can always say you'll react a certain way, but you really never know until that adrenaline hits you.
Right. And it was it's weird. So I only have that kind of experience to identify with. But what would I do? I went to the path of least resistance. I looked up and looked to somebody familiar. So I keep thinking about familiarity, because when you do something like this, you're going to want a place that with specificity is nobody's going to be there, that you're not going to be caught moving, disturbing. You know what I'm saying? There's an action that goes behind taking a body and putting it somewhere. So whether he had to dig a shallow grave, all these things, I don't know which, but I too believe that with the water, I think anything near that house they've searched. I think it's the Fillmore County.
Yeah, but you got the Mississippi and you got the Wisconsin River that run through there, and the Mississippi is close. It is. I don't know if his GPS took him that route, but I do know it's close. I've been up there to search a couple times.
Oh,
my son actually lived 2 miles from where this happened.
Oh.
So
I probably passed her house driving all over because I got turned around. That was the weirdest feeling, being by yourself and lost in the middle of nowhere.
I gave you crap in chat because you wouldn't have gotten lost if you would have reached out and let me know you were going to be in the area.
I know.
And I was the first one to guess that's where you were going.
You did. You did.
You didn't acknowledge my question.
I wasn't going to, because I didn't want to lie to you.
Well, I have even more respect now.
Yeah. So I just
But I caught you on that.
actually, to be honest with you, I didn't want to respond to anybody, because I think everybody hit just about every 50 state except Florida.
Well, it hurt my feelings, I'll tell you that.
Well, next time I'm in Minnesota, which I may be back, because this case, I you know what I want for this case? I just want more attention for it. I feel like
Absolutely.
This poor, she's beautiful. She's young. She's got 2 kids. The whole family knows she's gone. They're not looking for her alive. They just want to bring her home. And
well, it's sad on how they had a lot of attention for 3 weeks. And then right around the graduation time, it all settled down. Like, there's not very much attention to it anymore.
Right.
It's not even being talked about.
With the exception of Chris McDonough, he did bring up and put her name on a title and then talk about like 8 stages of whether your spouse is capable of, hurting you to death. And I listened to it. I kind of got into it late, but I listened to it. And the only comment I made was, thank you so much for doing this live. Like I was really appreciative that he did the live, that he had her name in his title, that he was bringing awareness to her case. But the only thing that's keeping me from the water part of it is he had no boat. There's no boat. I didn't see.
Yeah, but I could take you to a lot of areas that you would almost wonder.
Yeah, but the weight of her.
I mean, the only reason why I'm still sticking to the water, and I truly believe that's where, I would have to have GPS of his vehicle to know that he didn't go near the water, but there's so much there.
Yeah, no, and they brought up the water, but when they were bringing up the water aspect, like look along the Mississippi River, the police specifically said Mississippi River. They said they were looking for evidence of the crime that they didn't want washed away, because apparently the water rises, and when the water rises, it may take any additional evidence that they could have had and wash it away. But that was
they flooded 18 feet.
Yeah,
they were just flooded really, really bad.
So that concerns me. But when I look at the timing of it, it seems like, for me, because you have, like, we took into consideration, it takes him an hour to get where he goes from his house to Eastern Fillmore County, and an hour from Eastern Fillmore County back home. So 2 of the 3.5 hours was travel to and from. So he has this window. He has this window of an hour and a half in my calculations. Now, granted, this is theoretical. This is opinion. This is not fact. This is just how I'm processing the information. And so it seems like he has a whole hour and a half to do something. Now, could he have went and borrowed a boat from a friend? Maybe. Could he have went to a desolate property that he's known for years, like many of us that have lived in our communities for years? If we wanted to know where an abandoned house was, we would know where one is. I know where an abandoned house is right now, that is off the beaten path, that if I go there, not one person in the world will see me.
Right.
So I'm looking,
and it is like that. It is like that in that area, but there's a whole lot of waterfront, and I don't know. My theory is that I really do. In my opinion, I can't turn away from the water idea or the river, because it's just, there's so much there. As far as going where he did, probably to throw off Ellie off of the track of his whatever he did. I mean, did he go to family to calm down? Did he put himself around people that he knew that it would be like an alibi type of thing?
Yeah, absolutely could. Something was going on in that time frame, because we definitely know that law enforcement has come out as a statement of fact and said that they have confirmed that she did not leave that house she did not leave that house by foot or by another car. And then further stated that her disappearance is, what do they say? They used suspicious. They used a different word, not suspicious. They may have used suspicious, but they said something else, where they are in grave concern of her well-being. But law enforcement has already, come out to the public without saying that Adam Fravel is the suspect. They've given us all the information to say we believe he's the suspect.
I believe he's guilty. In my opinion, he is totally guilty.
Yeah. Yep. I believe so
He
too.
was mad she was leaving.
She was leaving him. She was moving out with either that later that day or very soon. She was moving out of that house. She was no longer going to be with him. She was already making plans to go stay with her family. She was done with Adam. So you've got the fact that they're over. He is officially her ex. They're still living in the same house. Law enforcement has stated that they cannot. They have confirmed that she did not leave willingly on foot or by another car. That after she got home at 8:30, there's no sign of her ever leaving the house again. And then you've got.
I believe he put her in something.
Yeah, and then you've got Adam driving for 3.5 hours, and law enforcement basically looking for his path of travel. Not everybody else's, his. They wanted to know where that blue minivan was. And so that's giving me all the guidance I need to say, hey, this guy is ripe for suspect in this case.
Absolutely.
So, but I definitely believe they're on the right track. I feel so bad for her family. I can't even imagine what her family is going through, and they're trying to keep such a bright and happy, they're staying united and they're staying strong. And I think their strength is coming from those two babies.
I agree. That is what's holding them together.
I think so.
Kids have a tendency of holding people together.
Yeah. But you can't even imagine, can you imagine being there and them constantly asking you where mommy is? That's got to break. I mean, I almost want to break down even thinking about that, because I just can't imagine, trying to explain something like this. They could never explain this to a 4 and a 2-year-old. Like you can't explain.
Oh, absolutely not.
They're never going to understand.
There's going to be a part of them that's going to be empty for a long time.
Yeah. And it's so sad. And, I just wish them the best, because those beautiful kids and Adam can maintain his innocence all he wants. But, I'm the person, when everything keeps coming back to you, you can deny. I just wish people, if they were going to do this, to quit trying to act like the public is stupid, the judges are stupid, the state is stupid. Oh, you're innocent, you're innocent, you're innocent. No, you're not. No, you're not. You're not innocent. Who else would have done this? Who had the motive, the means, or the opportunity to do this? Nobody. I mean, if you look at it from that element alone, motive, means, and opportunity, nobody else in the world had the motive but Adam. He was with her. He was breaking up, or she was breaking up with him. There's motive. She was leaving him. There's motive. Means, he was with her. He was around her. He was seen in a vehicle with her, dropping children off. They went back to a house. They were back at the house from 8:15. Opportunity. He was there by himself.
As far as I can tell and see, is the fact that she was a dedicated worker and her kids were her life, and it was one or the other. If she wasn't at work, she was with her kids.
I think there was hostility.
I really can't see anything else happening other than him.
This is what I think was going on behind the scenes. I really do. I think when she went to school, when she went to college and graduated college, which we saw her graduation pictures, one of the first photos that I showed when I started covering the Maddie Kingsbury case was the photo of her, hugging Adam Fravel at her graduation, or kissing him or something like that at her graduation. So I feel like after the graduation, she kind of started moving up with the Mayo Clinic. So she was kind of an entry-level employee. And if you look at her LinkedIn account, you can see where she's moved up in the organization, and she's became this clinical researcher for Mayo Clinic and she worked at her home. To me, it seemed like
Mhm.
she had now become the breadwinner. And I think it put Adam in this state of uncomfortability. And now he's probably
Yeah.
asking her, where have you been? Who have you been talking to? What are you doing? Now he's starting to feel insecure. He's no
Yeah.
longer the breadwinner. She's the breadwinner. She's probably making decisions for the family and he may not like them. He's wondering why she's doing all this. He's now starting to get jealous. He's wanting to know where she is. And she's saying, I can't deal with your crap no more, dude. Like I'm up to my eyeballs. I'm working my butt off. I'm trying to raise a family. I want better for my family. And you are dragging us down.
Yeah. 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 He didn't like the idea that she was getting bigger and more. I'll tell you, my son got into the Mayo Clinic and he was there for a while. He's moving from there, but he was there. And that is actually a big deal. The Mayo Clinic is amazing. You almost seem to get a big head on yourself when you work for them.
Right.
So I totally agree with what you're saying and I've said that from day one, because he's the one that called me like the day after this happened and we were talking about it. And I was like, well, I'm going to reach out to BHB and see if she'll cover the case because it's not even out there and it's a sad story.
Yeah, it is a sad story. I just want her, I really do. I just want to bring attention to this because I know there's a lot of great, beautiful people. Like I said, now, you're from Minnesota.
Her family is amazing.
Yeah.
Her family is amazing.
Let me ask you this. So I had an opportunity and I talked to, one of the neighbors that I said, and, he said he was very pointed on certain things. One, he wanted to make sure I knew that they had crime like every other community. Like he wanted to make sure this is no different. It was just weird kind of but he was very adamant that, they have crime just like every other community. And the other thing, when I had asked him, like, what do you think is bringing the uptick in crime in your community? And his response, he's like, well, we've been getting a lot of people moving into the community, but he kept saying Chicago. We have had a lot of people moving in here from Chicago. What is all that about? Do you know?
So I'm originally from the Chicago area. When we moved up to Wisconsin, it was more or less one of those things where a lot of people were trying to get out of the Chicago area, and they buy up a lot around the Wisconsin, Minnesota area. It's like their getaway spots, but I believe that it's more deeper than that. I mean, I'm only speculating, and it's a theory on the fact that it's all drug related.
Yeah.
But I don't believe that she was in.
Oh, no.
Nor him.
Yeah, that was just his opinion when I was talking about.
I believe that's why Chicago's moving into these areas.
Gotcha. Yeah, because it almost felt like he speculating. Yeah, it was almost like he had disdain. I have to be honest.
You gotta understand, that's a college town. It's very, very busy. That's why I'm saying, like, if she was on the ground somewhere, unless it was somewhere private that he had taken her to bury her, I believe that she would have been found.
Yeah.
Because they're busy, and the college there, they freaking make these kids do outdoor projects and outdoor homework type thing. Like, I remember my son having a freaking climb a mountain. He took me to it and we had to climb it with him. I'm like, oh my gosh. So like it's a busy place and they're outdoors all the time. So it is desolate in certain areas. So, I mean, it's passable, but I don't know. I'm a little confused and somewhat leaning towards the fact that she's in the Mississippi.
Let me ask you something, bring it back to the Koberger case. Did you hear online? See, I didn't hear, but see, I don't watch a lot of YouTube, believe it or not. I do a lot of research, but some things I used to be very detailed oriented, but I'm noticing as I'm getting older, my patience. So I've got to be a little more, a little more observant. Like these documents I have reviewed over and over and over and over again. Like I've got like freaking hundreds of pages, literally hundreds of pages of this case printed out. I mean, like literally, I'm not lying. I mean, hundreds and hundreds of pages right here of this entire case that I've reviewed, I've highlighted, I've redlined, I've made notes, I've all this stuff. And I was so frustrated with Megan Marshall and her orders, this non-dissemination order. And then I'm starting to see all these things that I didn't notice were signed by Judge John C. Judge at the beginning of this case when he wasn't the judge presiding over the case. It was Megan Marshall. So that shows me he was giving her directive since the beginning of this case. Is all of this John C.
I think he's controlling the case.
I never looked at it that way, but I have to concur. I believe.
The more I listen to you talk about it, I might be goofing off in chat, but I do listen. Mm-hmm. I'm a very well multitasker. But I think that there's a narrative they're pushing with this case, and I'm all over the place with this case. I really am. I think it's being controlled. I think the narrative's being controlled. I believe that the judge is really pushing all the info. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I really don't know how to put it in words. I'm torn all the way around in this case.
I got to be honest with you. It kind of broke my heart, and here's why. Because when I heard that there was a new judge presiding over the case, you guys heard me. I'm like, thank God. Like, I couldn't deal with another Megan Marshall order. Like, I'm like, thank God. And then I start doing some research on the new judge, and I'm like, well, crap. Here we are. I think it was him the whole time. Now,
well, my question is, why did he step down? But yeah, he's still pulling all the strings.
Right.
There's something to that.
No, I think it was. What I think it is because she's just the magistrate judge. They knew that this case was going to end up winding up on his desk, and so the judges were working together to make sure that she was, because he's going to be the one presiding over this trial. So this really is his case, even though she was just the magistrate judge on it. So I can see that kind of hand holding with the district judge and getting some directive and guidance from him on how she should handle this on his behalf, because at the end of the day, it's going to him. I wasn't looking at it.
Yeah, and it's going to be, it's going to be one of those well-known cases. I mean, it's going to be a case of the century, really.
Yeah, but I wasn't looking at it with that lens at the time when I was reviewing the case. Now, of course, hindsight's 2020, and I'm looking at this and I'm like, well, crap, the hope that we were going to have that would really turn this trial back to a public trial, back to the public, to let the public know what's going on in this case. I mean, this guy, let's be honest, this guy murdered 4 people in the middle of the night that we believe within 9 minutes. This is just, we are all ultra curious about what in the world happened, what took place, and why. And that curiosity is not going to go away. So people are going to be filling that curiosity with misinformation, or they're going to be filling that curiosity with good intel and great information and controlled information. Controlled. That's what I want. I want a tap of controlled information coming out that is allowed for the public consumption. We don't want anything more than what we're entitled to have. So I'm really hoping, but it doesn't look like the way, now that I'm reviewing this, I really don't think the only way we're going to get help to getting this case to really be a public case is for the media to take this to the Supreme Court. I'm jumping the gun a little bit because we haven't even seen how he acts on the very first hearing, which is going to be the 22nd. But again, we're not really going to get to see that until after the fact, because once again, the entire public is blocked out of this unless you live in the area. So you're forcing people to come to your area, which your community really doesn't want additional people there. But, we could avoid all of this, is all I'm saying.
Yeah. I don't agree on what's going down and how it's happening.
had more information coming out in the Lori Vallow case, and their entire trial was blocked off from the public.
That's why I said it's all fishy. Like there's something more to this. There's got to be something more to this case. There's got to be. To be shut out the way we're being shut out and they're going above and beyond to make us be shut out.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. I've never seen.
That's the scary thought. And how are you not going to let the public know what we should be protecting ourselves from?
Yeah, and I think Papa Rogers brings up a valid point here, and it says, what's the worst case? Hypothetical scenario. What would happen if the public doesn't get to see anything else? We're all frustrated. Less clicks from the sleuth channels. Mainstream media gets mad. Well, it's not about that, in my opinion, Papa Rogers. It's not. And just for those people that are here, this is not the Papa Rogers that was posting stuff. This is kind of like a little joke for a name, whatever. So I just want to give that, just so people. No offense, Papa, but it's not that. It's the fact that it's unconstitutional, and you cannot cannot preside over a case as a judge and try to. Apply the law for one place while violating the law for another place. You have to have that balance. And this is what the judges are for, is to provide the happy medium, not necessarily the answer the state or the defense wants, not necessarily the answer that the judge wants, but it's applying the law, whether you like it or not. And that's the problem I see here, is if it seems to me that they apply the laws that they want and don't apply the laws that they don't like. And that is where I'm having my problem with this whole process. You have to follow the law. People keep thinking the law governs the people. I tell you and try to educate the people on my channel. The law is for our government, not for us.
Little by little, they try taking our rights. They got to follow the same thing we got to follow.
Right. So it does guide us, right? If we know that if we break in a house, the law has the right to arrest us for that. Why? Because we have a penal code. We have statutes that say, hey, that's burglary. And if you trespass into somebody's house and rob them or break into their home, we have rules that allow us to put you under arrest. Again, those laws are not for us. It's for them.
Right. I agree. So, well, I'm going to let you go.
Thank you. You spent a half hour with me. So there's your birthday present.
It's because it's my birthday, right?
Birthday. It's your birthday. What?
All right. You have a good day.
You too.
Love you, lady.
All right. Love you too. God bless.
God bless. Bye.
Bye. Our beautiful Be Kind in our chat. That was her. It's her birthday on Thursday. She's going to be all groggy because she's having surgery the day before her birthday. God bless her. We really love her. So what we'll do is we'll have to have an entertainment show for Be Kind. We'll have I'm just joking. We don't need to give anybody any extra clips. But I would love to, right? One day we'll get there where we can actually act foolish on here and just have fun for somebody's birthday without having to worry. One day. I have a dream, right? I have a dream. Also, my name is Elliot from Southern India. Okay, well, that's nice. That's nice to hear from you. Thank you, Elliot. I do appreciate you being here. But I didn't want people saying, we're starting to attack you because of your name or anything. So I just wanted to give a little insight on there. Not like we allow people to attack people here on this channel anyways. But, still, I just figured I'd put that out there. But I appreciate you being here, Elliot. Thank you so much. And thank you for your input. Let me go back over to the poll that we had. And let's see what we have. So the question was, do you think Judge has the experience to handle Brian Koberger's case? And our channel, our chat here, overwhelmingly states they believe that Judge has the necessary experience to handle this case. So that's good. And I believe he knows the law. I mean, that's really grand jury equals secrecy. If case is so strong, then that shouldn't be needed. Why hush hush? I don't like it. None of us like it, because we are, in order for us to be in this type of thing, and you too, just Samantha, we like the transparency. We like truth and transparency when it comes to our government. We want to know what's going on. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. But we also realize that some of the stuff that we come across is, needs to be protected. So I think that the people that are responsible out there protect certain information of cases, even when they're not obligated to do so. So if, for example, if I found out some information that has not been relayed or relied on, and it seems like it goes right directly to the heart of the case or provides something to the case that really shouldn't be, I won't say it. I will not say it. There's a lot of stuff I come up here and I will say, whether, I'm just frustrated or what, and I will, just say it, right? But holding on to this information for too long, here's the information that I was told. Here's what I was told. Here's where I was told from in those little limited situations. But like in the case of Winona, there's a lot of information that's not readily available to the public. One, there's not a whole lot of people that are, there are some, like News Nation did a segment on it. Chris McDonough did a segment on it. I did a segment on it. A few segments on Maddie. We got public record requests out and on all this stuff, but there's still a lot of information that has not come out about the case. That you're only going to get that insight from certain people in the community or around this case, or somebody that's just been following this case really close in that community, where you can derive some information, or that may know this family or maybe friends and stuff like that, where you can get some additional information that's not a privy to the public, which I have currently, especially with the Maddie case. But I'm not bringing that forward. One, I was asked not to, period. For the person that I was speaking to, I spoke to two people while I was out there. The neighbor was just an added bonus. He just happened to be outside of his house, no big deal. But the two people that I actually sat down with and met with, one, I didn't even record the conversation at all. The second one, I recorded the conversation, but they have asked me, obviously not to bring it forward. We had already agreed up front that we were not going to bring it forward until a much later date. And also the caveat to that was I am to provide them that information or the video before it's released, just to make sure that they approve it. And if they don't, I may not even I could talk about the conversation, but I won't be able to provide that. I could lawfully, because the interview was provided to me in the proper format or, proper, but it's also about respecting people's wishes and keeping that line of communication open with that person. So I definitely want to do that, because it's very important to have somebody that can, drip something your way here and there, right? And that's what we want to do. And we want to promote that, and we want people to know that, we have integrity. And if we tell you we're not going to do something, we're not going to do it. So I can talk about some things, but there are certain keys that I did find out that at this point have not been disclosed publicly. And I've asked, since they haven't been disclosed publicly, not to disclose them. Once the information comes out, I can address it and talk about it and tell you what I've learned. But until that time, that stuff is staying in the vault. Oh, wow. Well, either way, Ashley, the person in that's coming that has the name as Papa Rogers, whether they're trolling or not, they've been absolutely at most respectful in this chat so far. And I know that because they're able to communicate. My mods haven't blocked them, banned them, or anything else. So even if we don't, it doesn't really matter, as long as they're, communicating good and not being a jerk. They're more than welcome to be here. The only thing that we don't like is people that come in here and are jerks. So he's been at most respectful. And if he wants his anonymity, he's more than able to have his anonymity. And in all fairness, if I wanted anonymity on YouTube, I could have anonymity on YouTube. I could have set up my account much differently than I did. I'm just not one of those anonymous people. I own my stuff, right? Right? I own it. Different spelling. You're right. Yeah. I mean, in all fairness, they haven't been mean. Like we've had a heck of a lot worse in here, right? We don't like them. I'm happy with a troll that comes in here and is respectful. We welcome respectful trolls. Okay, we welcome respectful trolls. So could be a lot worse, right? We take our blessings when we get them, right? So anyways, all right, guys. Well, it has been amazing. We've already been on 2 hours. I hope somebody got at least something from it, but we did cover a couple different things on today's show. We covered the jury and what the jury will most likely have to watch to become a juror in the Bryan Kohberger case. We didn't get the pamphlets and the other items that the video referenced, but at least we get an idea. And I have to say that was really a good video that they did. As a jury, I wouldn't want to go on social media after that. Now you got my emotions involved, right? Because I'm an important part of this judicial process and I want to carry out my duties perfectly. So, that video really did at least give us an insight that these jurors aren't just picked and just thrown into the jury box and they just have this little limited amount of instruction from the judge and they've got to decide a case. It is a process. They do get they have this kind of like quick training, probably maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours of training before they're actually a jury, maybe less. I mean, that video was 15 minutes and they still had to go over the pamphlets. They probably had somebody, in the room saying, this is how this process is going to work a little more thoroughly. Here's this, please read through it. And whatever you do, just stay offline. Right? Probably what they do. Just stay offline. So that was really interesting, but I gotta say the most disheartening find of this is the orders early on in this matter signed by Judge John C. Judge. That is the most disheartening find that I found in my research because it just doesn't make me feel all warm and fuzzy like, we're going to be able to be part of this trial. And I'm hoping that things change, but we've got the Gonzalez family that's intervened. We've got the media that has intervened. So I do believe that, the going through the proper chains of command will result in a favorable ruling for our favor. But it just seems like the judge and the courts are going to make them work for it. And I really hope, I really hope the judge doesn't force this to the Supreme Court. I really do. Because first of all, it's going to come back favorable for the media if it's forced there. And we don't need another Supreme Court ruling on this fact. It's like this should have been limited in nature. It's been 6 months. It's time to get down to business and quit worrying about all this stuff out there. There's a lot of stuff there's a lot of laws and statutes that are less restrictive to provide an avenue for Bryan Kohberger to have a fair trial. The problem is they're too busy trying to violate law to keep that in their community. And I'm sorry, that is overly broad. There's less restrictive avenues, whether or not he's got to be moved to a different county to have his trial or not. That is a less restrictive avenue and one that has to be looked at long before you block the entire public out. So I really do hope that John C. Judge, doesn't force this to the Supreme Court. You want to make them dance a little bit? Okay, make them dance a little bit. But let's keep this out of the Supreme Court because this is going to cause problems, in my opinion, in the future for the state of Idaho, for all judges, once that Supreme Court ruling comes out. And I just think this should be taken care of long before it gets to the Supreme Court. That's my 2 cents. I'm interested in the legal communities, that reviews this stuff. If they agree with me, if they don't agree with me, and the reasons for it. But that's just my 2 cents. That's just how I'm looking at this. That's my interpretation. I just want to take a few moments to give those that provided support for this segment. I wanted to give you guys a big shout out. Tammy, becoming the newest member of the Coffee Club. Thankful Soul gave us a mic drop. Sabrina became the newest member of the Coffee Club. And Julie, we love you. God bless you. Julie also provided a gift membership to a lovely person here in the audience. So please, if you received your gift membership from Julie, don't forget to tell her thank you. We have a lot of great supporters here on the Bullhorn Betty channel, and they work very, very hard right along with me to keep this channel up and going and working for all of us. So God bless you. God bless everybody. We'll see you soon. Don't forget to be fearless. If you see something, say something. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And until next time, please be safe and kind to one another.
As you wake up in the morning, you want to find the latest, greatest information about criminal cases and have an intuitive conversation about the suspects associated with these cases. Head over to the Bullhorn Betty channel on YouTube. Get breaking news right here on the Bullhorn Betty channel. Welcome to the Bullhorn Betty Coffee Club. Enjoy your stay and enjoy your day.